Hello, friends. Nicole Vincent here today. I am so honored. I've got Rob, aka Fizz, from, well, I'm going to say it. He's created Oink, but he's also an amazing Amazon influencer that has really paved the way for a lot of us and just is super inspiring. He's been doing this for how many years now, Rob?
2.5. I think it'll be three in May somehow. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's like when is our Amazon anniversary? Um, I had to go back and like see when I uploaded my first video because I couldn't remember for a long time. But Rob has been very successful in the Amazon influencer program and is just loves talking strategy, loves sharing his tips and tricks, and just has provided the influencer community with hope and almost like a resurgence, honestly, with Oink. So we're not going to talk about Oink a ton. I'm going to get it out of the way at the beginning just because we have to say thank you from
Yeah.
me, from all the other influencers out there that Oink has blessed. Thank you. Thank you. Like you have blessed so many people with so much more money and with so much more hope in this program. So, like, I'm getting emotional thinking about it. Like, what a blessing you have been. And just the Oink community is just like, it is my favorite place to hang out on online. And so thank you for providing that. So sorry, I'm a little weepy today, but I seriously am so, so grateful. So with that, Rob,
Well,
how did you,
hold on. Let me hold on. And let me interject. So here's the thing. I appreciate that, and I'm trying to get better at accepting niceties and compliments that are bestowed upon me, and I very much appreciate that. Um, from my standpoint, I you guys are ultimately the ones that are doing this stuff. I feel like I'm in a good position of support in order to help you do the things that you're already doing and hopefully help you to be able to do them at like a higher level. So I would be remiss to say, first of all, thank you for that. That's very touching. Second is that like without the things that you guys are the thing that's actually moving the needle. Oink's just there trying to give you sort of the support and the foundation to do more of those things that you're already doing. So, my rebuttal is always I always say kudos to you guys for if it is making a difference, it's because you're already doing the thing that you should be doing. But I do very much appreciate the kind words. I'm bad at taking that. When people post it in the Facebook groups, they're like, "Thank you so much," and I'm like, it's really you. Like I feel like I mean that's a bad business move. I get it. Like from my standpoint, I should go like you're absolutely correct. It's amazing, whatever. But I think ultimately it's like the people that are doing the work are the ones that and Oink is just there to be a support and just to make the whole thing maybe better and easier to do. So kudos to you and thank you at the same time.
look at you receiving. So, yeah, so you do need to practice that because you're going to get more. You're going to get more as it continues to grow.
Yeah.
Um, But so how did you originally start with the Amazon influencer program? You've been in it for 2.5 years, like
Yeah.
almost 3 years. Like how did you get started with it?
By accident. It was like, I mean, so here's the way that it went was I would always been, I'm just like a normal bozo. I'm just some dum dum here from the Midwest. I'm winging life, like a lot of people are winging life. And during COVID, when COVID kind of hit, you were looking around at things a little bit differently, maybe through a different lens. And so
Yep.
I saw a blogging course that came up during COVID. We're all kind of sitting around at home, and I thought that sounds interesting to me. And usually I would have seen something like that and went like, that sounds like a scam. And for whatever reason, because all of our brains were in some other ecosystem or some other realm, we're all thinking and living differently. It hit me just in a different way, and it was a little pricey. It was probably $600-700, I think, to join this thing, and I had no real proof of it being a good idea for me to do it. And except I've always been a nerd and teachable, but other than that, I didn't know really anything about it. And I did it. And my brother goes like, you just lit that money on fire, right? You don't know what you're doing here. I was like, that's probably true. And so I got good at blogging. Um, I'm so stubborn. I just don't know when to quit. When I catch a little bit of something is legit, then it's hard for me to sort of let go of it. And I just saw enough. I wrote a couple of articles. I saw a little bit of traction and I was like, all right, let's go. And so I went into that pretty heavy. But that sort of like opened the door for me of going like, okay, if that's real, what else have I been saying no to naturally that actually might be a real thing? Realizing that probably a lot of it's still not. Like where my brain, I'm just like, even to this day, I know a lot of it's still not, but some of it is. And
Yeah, yeah.
so my blog was cooking really good. It's a health and fitness blog, still there until well, actually, let me say during that summer, May or June is when I got in the Amazon Influencer Program. I saw it come across my desk. I was in this mindset of maybe just say yes sometimes. And I came across, and I don't even know what it was. Somebody's like, you can make money making videos and having them posted on Amazon. And I said, okay, I'm good at that stuff, I think. And so I did it. I was actually having this conversation yesterday. I have zero context for how I signed up for this thing. Like, I remember I filled a thing out. I don't remember submitting my 3 videos. It all happened within like a very, I was in within a matter of a couple of hours, videos and everything. I think. I don't
Same
even
here.
know.
Same here.
Yeah. In retrospect, I told the guy yesterday, I said, maybe I wasn't. I didn't even know about the 3 video thing being approved until like 6 months later, whenever somebody else was talking about it. And I was like, I thought I may have went through it all at once, but maybe I didn't. And maybe that happened naturally on its own a couple days later. And all I know is it's a blur and I totally winged it. I just picked 3 videos. I know I had to submit them. I didn't know they had to get approved from YouTube. And I just put them in, my videos. And so I was in like very, very quickly with zero understanding really of how anything worked in the program. But I caught just enough wind of it to just go like, okay, let's go. Sort of like the blog thing, Dan. Let me lean into this. A couple months later, so that was like May and June. In September of 2023, we had something called the helpful content update that hit Google and small publishers. So my blog basically got crushed. A lot of small publisher blogs got crushed. Google refigured their algorithms and prioritized AI and websites like Reddit and Forbes. And all of a sudden, people like me that were real and writing articles maybe got replaced with a Forbes or a TechCrunch or whatever the case was. And so it crushed it out of nowhere. But by that point, I had already really started to kind of move on the influencer side of stuff. And although it was awful to lose that because I was making money through affiliate stuff, it was all fitness equipment I had Amazon links and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. But at that point, I was just like, okay, but now I have this thing still here, and it was already doing my first month. I talk about this sometime. Did really well, made a couple $1,000s in the influencer program in my first month by accident. It wasn't because I was good, and that's actually probably a different story to tell. But I saw traction very quickly, and so I just kind of leaned into it, tried to stay teachable, try to continue to learn. My first year, I don't think I didn't touch it. There wasn't a day that I didn't touch it my first year, I bet. Every single day I did something in the influencer program. I didn't see it as a side hustle. Blogging for me wasn't a side hustle. Because I enjoyed doing that stuff. And so I was just like every day I was either doing I was looking at products, I was like looking for new products, I was trying to get new products, I was making content for new products. I was doing something almost pretty much every single day for that first year. And here I find myself 2.5 years later, just because the consistency helped me put a good strategy together. Again, not special, not smart, just too stubborn to know when to quit sometimes. And 2.5 years later, about to roll into like my third, and couldn't be happier with the progress that I've made in the program and seeing kind of what the program has turned into and being able to participate with it now with people like you. That I'm able to have these types of conversations with and maybe help in some way, like make life. I've been saying lately that sometimes people in this program, it's so interesting. They're in so many different stages of their life and they join for a lot of different reasons. Um, but everybody wants to make life better. That's part of the reason they get it. It doesn't matter where they're at now. It's to make life better. But some people are getting into it because life's awful and they're trying to figure out a way to like make it better. And I think about those people a lot of just like if I can just be a something for them. So I'm getting that part of it where I get to participate with people like that are struggling, people that are just trying to make life better in general, and I'm still doing well on the Amazon influencer side. So it has been a very fulfilling journey, just not for me on a personal level, but just also as just like a participating and contributing to the universe, in a good and positive way. So could be thrilled here now going into my third year.
Yeah, I love that. It's been fun the past year. I think I came across your blog. Somebody had posted about the script that you wrote to help
Oh
match up
yeah,
your
that, oh
creator
yeah.
connections back in like it was early spring, maybe late winter, when I found that, and I was like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah.
And so it was nice. Like I already saw how you were trying to bless other people, and then how that has morphed over the past year has been just amazing. So I'm curious, like your first year, because we've got like there's a good community. Like, were you kind of just a lone soldier for that first year? Did you have anybody that you kind of like watched that was kind of like a mentor, or were you just kind of like figuring it out on your own? I'm curious.
Yeah, mo mostly on my own. It was a thing. Also because my first month was so good, I thought that I had it figured out immediately. That was also part of it. I didn't feel like I needed a mentor. All of a sudden, I was just like,
And you're
I
like,
am it.
I did 2000 my first month. Like, whoop de
Yeah,
doo, I've
yeah.
got it.
I'm your mentor. If anything, right off the bat, in my first week, I'm just like, you come and talk to me if you need help. No, it was a thing where even within blogging, I had no connections, nothing in that world really whatsoever. And the influencer side was really kind of the same thing. I got into it without knowing anybody else that was doing it at the time, and got in so quickly, started making money so quickly that I just sort of like paid attention to what everybody else was kind of talking about, right? There was a couple of Facebook groups at that point that you could be part of, and even if you weren't participating, you could glean off of like some of the stuff they're talking about and see their successes and see their failures. And again, as somebody that just tries to stay teachable, I'm just paying attention to what they're sort of saying and absorbing it, trying some of it, avoiding some of it, whatever the case is. And so, to be honest, I didn't really have a community. Like I said, I'm 2.5 years into it now. Oink has been around. Let me see. This is December, so I put that out around like May of this year. So we're about the 8 month mark for Oink to be around. So, almost 2 years of not really knowing too many people in the thing, just kind of doing my own thing. Now, the YouTube channel I'd had for about a year prior, and I had people starting to subscribe and chat with me through there, but I wouldn't say I necessarily had like relationships with any of the people, and they didn't know who the hell I was either. They're just basically like he's talking about the influencer program and seems to know sometimes what he's talking about. And so that was really my only context. I didn't really get to form the relationships and probably be in these types of situations with other like-minded people, and some of them doing way more than me by far, until I created the Oink, and that put me into much more contact with people, personally and relationally on all aspects, whether it was the noobs or the OGs or some of these people that are doing this at a much higher level than anybody I've ever heard of. So I've been able to really kind of create a lot of new connections. But prior to this, it's been pretty much lone wolf, which I operate very well off of. So that didn't really bother me at all.
Your no normal operating method.
Yeah, pretty much. Somebody else asked me about that, and they're like, "Well, how do you do stuff?" I'm like, by myself in the dark mostly. It's like just everybody else goes to sleep, and it's like everything gets real quiet. I don't even listen to music hardly anymore. It's just I have no problem sort of like the silence, and it helps me get probably more stuff done.
Yeah. So we've joked in the past about influencer brain. So is that like it sounds like you have constant influencer brain, like you're always thinking about this program, strategizing about this program, like how to make it better and how to create tools that make it easier and smoother, and like what is that like living inside your head? I'm curious.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, I've never been asked what's it like living inside my head. That's a heavy question. Let me ask the voices and let me see what they say. What it's like being there. Um, yeah, I do have it, but and I think for me, the way that those voices do operate has shifted probably a little bit, which is I think that for a while I would think about it so often, trying to find a workaround, or feeling like there was always something that would make things always easier, or that it was, or there was should always be something like if I could just do this one thing, it'll change a lot of things. And I think now I still think about that sometimes because that stuff still does exist. Those types of opportunities of streamlining and if you've been missing a little bit of a thing. But I think more so now I think about it in terms of just general strategy, regardless of ease or regardless of anything. Like, are my ducks always in a row? Or if this got moved to here, does this make more sense if somebody's going to start doing this part right here? Should they do this part right afterwards? Or if I'm doing a feature for like within Oink, my brain is just like thinking about all the time, like, does this actually do something for people? Not always about making stuff easier, but does it actually like move the needle in a way that's actually meaningful? So I think that it's just my brain has changed a little bit from I do still think about it all the time, but I've moved away from the what am I missing? What's one hack or whatever that type of thing, which my brain was sort of consumed with, for a while, especially probably the first 3 months or so of Oink whenever it got off the ground. And now it's really kind of moved into like sometimes there's not another one. Sometimes there's not another hack. It's just about creating new layers to your strategy. Sometimes there's definitely new tips, but that doesn't always mean those tips are going to make things easier for you. But they could certainly be more lucrative and get you further down the way, down the progress within the program. So I think that's it's just different for me now, the way that I sort of think about it, and I think about it on a larger scale than just me too, right? I think because of the extension and because I have a lot of these conversations that I'm not always just thinking about like, well, my commissions or whatever the case is. I'm trying to think of like as a whole for the community, like what makes sense for me to do that actually provides value and doesn't just come across like as fluff. I think about that a lot because in the SEO world with blogging, I had signed up for a lot of different tools. I didn't know the world, so I was just like, I'll just invest in a bunch of different tools and see what. And a lot of it, I realized, were full of things that were not really applicable to most people that used them. Like, I don't want to call them fluff per se, but I feel like it was a lot of filler a lot of times. Maybe you only have one or two things within that really only mattered. So I do spend a lot of times also just going like what matters in this program and like what actually doesn't, and trying to kind of sort that through in my brain. So it does still always kind of turn. It's just that the conversation in there is different.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. Um, so I'm curious, like you've had this journey, right? How has your approach to content creation changed over the your journey with the Amazon Influencer Program? Because you have a lot of content out there. Like you create so much content, and that's one of the reasons you're super successful because you create a lot of content. So how did it kind of start out, and then how is it like what's kind of your current content creation
Yeah.
strategy?
All right, when you say content creation, are you talking about from like a talking about the program standpoint or content within the Amazon Influencer program for creating product videos?
I
Which
would say for within the Amazon Influencer Program.
so for product videos?
Hmm.
Okay. Um, it hasn't been intentional. I mean, it has evolved, but a lot of this is a conversation I have quite frequently with people. Is sometimes you just like you do and you evolve as you do. You know, like it's like you don't necessarily intend for like the way that I do content creation now and the way that I shoot videos now wasn't what it was 6 months ago, and it wasn't what it was like a year ago. And to be honest, I don't even know if I would have thought it would be where it's at now 6 months ago, and I would have said the same 6 months ago from the 6 months prior to that. It's just like always kind of like changing for me. Certainly there are parts of my strategy that have evolved. Like there's no doubt about that, especially with like Creator Connections doing with what Creator Connections is doing. But
Yeah.
whenever it comes to like just the content part, I think that the thing that I'm really trying to hammer home with people that I talk to now is like, earlier I said I'm not smart, I'm not special, and you don't have to be to do this stuff. But the one common thread that I think people got that do this on any sort of like decent level, like where it's converting, is there's a thread of consistency that always is there, regardless of like how you do everything else, regardless like your strategy, regardless of how you create your content, whatever. And what happens is that consistency helps those strategies evolve. Like it's by doing those things over and over again, you learn like every day, like here's what I should do when I first get up, or here's how I should shoot this video in a way that actually makes more sense. But if you it's set out ahead of time to go, I need to revamp my processes. It's almost too hard to think about it ahead of time because the program is dynamic and you kind of have to evolve as it's evolving. But it's that thread of consistency that essentially ends up dictating, if you're paying attention and you listen to it and you see the results from it, like, well, here's what this should look like for me. Like, I should make slightly longer videos, slightly shorter videos. I should make them concentrate more on this particular type of product. I should hold this one different over time or whatever the case is. So, that's probably my answer. I'm not sure it's a good one that of what my strategy is or how I've approached that. It's really been I've let my successes and my failures through my consistency give me an opportunity to learn from those and then dictate what those things should be as I go forward. Because without that consistency part, I was telling somebody else this last week that you could have an awesome strategy. You could have a great approach, but if you don't have consistency, then it's DOA. Like it's the most worthless. It's like a paperweight having that stuff. But
Yeah.
you could have no consistency, or I'm sorry, you can have no strategy. You can have no approach. You have no knowledge, but with consistency, all that stuff is able to grow and it can evolve over time. So for me, it's I don't think too much about sort of like my individual parts to it or how like my approach is as much. I mean, I do, but whenever it's like, well, how do I change this or what does this look like for me going forward? Especially, I'm so reliant on if I can control the consistency, then those other things will start to eventually make sense to me too.
Yeah. And I think that that's important to constantly be keep that content creation wheel going, but pay attention to what works and what doesn't, right? and constantly kind of tweak your process so that you can become more efficient, because the faster and quicker you can produce videos that convert, the better it's off for you and more money in your pocket. And just keep improving your skills, right? Like, don't be
Yeah.
so stuck in one way of doing it that you're not open to change.
Well, and I'll tell you too, that first year that I did this, where I was basically touching it every single day in some way, um, a lot of the stuff that Oink got developed from, I was writing Oink myself for my own purposes, and I didn't know anybody else was ever going to see it. But a lot of it came from the consistency revealed to me things that were pain points to me, like things that I were doing over and over and over again. Eventually, you look around and go, "This is stupid. Why am I doing this one thing like this every single time? If I could just have a thing that did this for me, then I could do this better." And the consistency there kind of showed me a lot of the pathway forward on what I needed to develop in order to make certain things just like work better. So I mean, there's a lot of value you can get from having consistency, and frankly, even like being consistent at being bad in some way. It's not an uncommon
Yeah.
conversation for me to have. People, a lot of us that started, we didn't have the tools we have now. We didn't have the knowledge of the programs that we had now. So we spent sometimes a year or more uh, failing for a
Yeah.
lot because we were very consistent. And we're just you look back and you go, why are our commissions not that great after the course of the year? But it taught us that consistency ended up teaching us this really interesting lesson in failure and that pain point that I don't know if you didn't have that, if you would have been like when we're looking back now, would I have got it? Would it have landed with me if I wouldn't have been so consistent at being bad that eventually I go, I think that I can see what it takes to be good. So like that consistency for me is paramount really to pretty much everything else.
Yeah. And be willing to fail. Like, be willing to be bad. Like, you're going to be bad.
Yeah.
You can't,
Yeah.
if you don't try, you can't make that progress, and you can't get better if you're not
And that's
willing
and
to
that's
be
valuable. That's a
wrong.
valuable thing. Like it's not always about the commission statement at the end. I mean, certainly that's kind of the goal of the whole thing, but value in this program can come from a lot of different things. And you're 100% right there that sometimes being bad is one of the requirements to eventually get good. There's a great line in this movie Vanilla Sky with was it Vanilla Sky with Tom Cruise, and somebody was talking about how great his life was and how it's never bad. And the guy goes, "How would you something like how do you ever know what the sweet is without ever having the sour at the same time?" And so I think that there's value in sometimes things just not being that great and having an opportunity to learn from them.
And not giving up, right?
That's hard. That's hard in the meantime, right? Because especially if you are paying a lot of attention to the commission rates, which it's hard not to do that. But during failure, whenever the commission is making your commission chart looks like a fart noise on paper, like it's not a great. Like you're trying to just go, like, what am I doing here? Why am I even like wasting my time? So that's true. And this is why I said earlier, sometimes I'm too stubborn to know when I should get out of something, and it ends up typically working out because I work till it gets there. But that can be hard for sure. Not seeing your hard work falling flat in a lot of ways because seeing the forest through the trees isn't always the easiest thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. So I want to touch a little bit on Creator Connections, because that is a relatively newer program. Like, it's only about what, a year old at this point? I don't know. I feel like it
It's
came out
it's been
last
around for a
fall.
while, but it's been around for several years, is my
Okay.
understanding. But it was invite only for a long time, and even a lot of the people that were invited early, like me, I had no idea what it was, so I ignored it. So it didn't catch fire, I would say, certainly till this year.
Yeah. So, because that was something, like, I got invited and I'm like, I don't even know what this is. Like, this is confusing. Doesn't make sense. Like, there's a lot here. I don't even know how to find what I'm looking for. So, like, finally deciding to figure out Creator Connections, like, how did that shift not only your business, but the Oink development as well? Because
Yeah.
that was definitely, I would think, a side effect of figuring out Creator Connections.
Yeah, I would say it's still a work in progress because it feels new, right? That I feel like where we're at with the program, we're all sort of shocked we're here. And like whatever we've done up to this point, it's sort of like, but our head's still above water because it's gone bonkers, right? So, earlier in the year, I had a conversation with somebody and we were talking about we could see a future where uh, Creator Connections commissions overtook Amazon Influencer Program commissions. So basically, but there was no part of me that thought it'd be like 4 months later that all of a sudden those would become neck and neck. Amazon, I think, took a page from TikTok's playbook and put a lot of the pressure onto the brands to do more, which is what TikTok Shop ultimately is. And by doing that, that's why we saw the number of campaigns increase. We're at like 480 something thousand now.
That's
It'll probably drop
crazy.
for the next couple of weeks because of the holiday. I'm gonna guess, but after the first year, I would expect to see over 500,000 pretty
Yeah.
quick. Um, and so we're also kind of in this world of like it happens so fast of like what does this actually mean? This is our first holiday season with it being in this particular, which is also I'm seeing I'll tell you I'm seeing some numbers that are bonkers right now for some people that are just because of how powerful Creator Connections is.
Yeah.
So it has definitely shaped a lot, at least short term. I mean, with the extension, yes. I mean, there's functionality and things that I'm still writing into it that are trying to figure out like best way to like navigate certain things and make the most out of what's currently going on over there. But I think that even from just like a personal strategy. The one big shift that we saw this year was typically in the program, people would wake up and they'd start going over to Amazon and looking for products, or they were in Creator Connections was like the secondary thought. And then I would say we're at a point where probably 80 to 90% of the influencers now go to Creator Connections first thing in the morning. And Amazon has actually become a little bit of a afterthought for a lot of people as far as going on there and looking for products because of the impact of Creator Connections, which can actually be a great opportunity for people if they're going over to Amazon because it's getting ignored, I think, a lot right now in favor of Creator Connections. But it is. It's an interesting spot that we're in, and it's interesting how fast it evolved because I think that it's not done evolving, which could make the first half, first quarter, maybe even of next year, really interesting of what Amazon decides to roll out with this. Because we've even seen some more updates in the last month with early access campaigns and the shift with creator stars and who has access to those and who doesn't. So Amazon is hellbent on making something out of this, out of creator connections, and we could just be seeing the surface of it. But I have no doubt that we're only seeing the beginning of what's ultimately going to be, version 3, version 4, version 5 of it.
Yeah, and I think it makes sense for Amazon to grow that program because, like you said, it shifts the responsibility of the payment on from Amazon onto the sellers, and you're keeping all of these influencers happy that are creating more content that
Yeah.
Amazon can use to sell more stuff. And so when we're making more money, we're going to be making more content for Amazon, and then Amazon's happy because they're making more sales. So
Yeah, but I think a side effect of that's going to end up being that because this is now more on the brands. I think sometimes Amazon has so much money it would pay stuff out, and it didn't pay a lot of attention to who was paying out to or have a lot of requirements from us. Like just make your content, but if you put it on the brand's shoulders, I think that brands will begin to expect more from the people they're paying money out to.
yeah.
Right. So a great example of that is earlier in the year when Amazon removed the requirement to have a link on your campaigns, even though I'm not sure it was technically ever there, but they verbally said out loud it was not there
There was a
anymore. You don't
verbal threat.
Yes, yes, I'm very much verbal. Uh, when they removed that, we were all kind of like, great, from the influencer side. But I think that then as they started to put that more onto the brands, that the money they were paying out through their campaigns, the brands were looking around going, where's all of our links at? Like they wanted them because it gave them visibility into the money that they were paying out and the content that was being created on their behalf. So, it'll be interesting to see how brands, because it's new to them too, like at
Yeah.
this particular kind of level. So it'll be interesting to see sort of what they demand from Amazon going forward in relation to that. I think Amazon's response initially to that has been the early access change that they made in the last couple of months, where if you're gold or platinum, you have a week to 10-day head start on these campaigns now versus silver and bronze. And I think that was one of the first sort of reactions to like, okay, brands, we see that we need to protect you. I mean, I say protect, but like we need to make sure that if you're paying your money out or if you're being messaged by somebody, that you can get a feel for if they're quote unquote qualified based purely
Yeah.
on sales numbers, not as a person, as a human, you're special. We all love you. But
Yeah.
as a from that standpoint, so I think that was like one of the first steps we'll probably see in the first half of next year. But I said it after Prime Days in August or October, whenever that was. I've lost track. I was like, I'm really excited about the holiday season based off of what I saw in that short sample size because this is the first time that Creator Connections is on steroids essentially during the holiday season, and we're seeing it pan out exactly that same
Oh,
way.
for sure. It's been like mine is still like like all the shipments are still coming out and it's been amazing.
Yeah.
But it's I think Amazon it will have to adjust it and shift it as brands respond. And I think that that's something about the Amazon influencer program is we have to be open to the rules that Amazon changes and the how the game will change and shift because we've like I haven't been in long enough to see huge changes, but that have been doing this for 5, 6, 7 years, like they've definitely seen big changes within the program. And so like how do you stay like adaptable and informed about the different changes that are going on? And how do you adapt?
Um, I I put my head in the sand and hope it comes out okay on the other end pretty much. That's a lot of it is just like I numb my brain for a bit and just like please just I mean it's hard, because the OGs had been around for a while. I think the biggest thing and I don't want to tell tales out of schools. What I think the phrase was. I think that a lot of their biggest impact was it was that the competition just boomed. So many more people came into the program. And they were in there at a time where there was very little people in there, so you could create kind of whatever content you wanted. And you were sometimes the only person on almost all products that you did videos for. Like so, it was a very different world. I mean, the rules of engagement are still pretty much the same now as they were then, which is make videos for products that need your videos and that your video gets watched. Like that stuff's still the same, but there's so many more people in the program because Amazon opened up the floodgates and allowed more people in, which required people to be more strategic than just like, hey, I'll just do everything. I'll make money from it. So massive change with that. I think other than that, it's just sort of like one is you always kind of know that it's coming, right? You always kind of know that something's going to happen, that there's these different tweaks and different programs and different changes that are going to end up staying. But if you look back over sort of the course of what the program has done, those two rules of just make videos for products that are selling and that your video can get watched, that still remains a constant throughout all of it. So it's probably the best way that I can probably approach it from here is just going like whatever the peripheral parts of the program end up being that has been consistent. And so I'm going to have to assume that there's most likely that part. And so I can build usually around that part of it. And everything else that pops up, like for example, the Deals Hub thing came around the last Prime days.
Mhm.
And even though Bronze and Silver didn't have access to it, like that was one of the first times that I think that Deals Hub became important again. And so I wrote a quick script and made it so you could check products on the Deals Hub thing, see if they had creator connections campaigns for them, see how many they were selling per month, et cetera. So a little bit of it's definitely on the fly. Like is if I hear something, if I see something, if I know something's coming down, I'll address it and see if I need to make any changes in the extension to it. For my own personal thing, what's weird is like for the most part, I haven't changed my own personal strategy as an influencer very much. Like I mean, it's been pretty much just like keep your head down, keep picking good products, and keep creating content. And that because it lines up with that common consistent theme that's been throughout the program for a long time, continues to still work. But always paying attention for sure. Nothing would shock me anymore as far as any program changes. But we're in Amazon's playground. This is their ecosystem. We don't own any part of it. We're lucky to be participating with whatever amount of time that they allow us to essentially participate. Just like I was with blogging, even though it got crushed eventually. And I was lucky to participate in it. Like it taught me a lot. I made money off of it for a while. We don't own any of these platforms. And so we are essentially guests in their house. And so, trying to do what we can while we're in there and be good guests over there so we can stay as long as we possibly can.
Yeah. And learn the rules and play by them as, learn how to maximize them and use them to your advantage. And yeah, keep creating content. Like I think that so many people get stuck. They're like, oh, but I've done 200 videos. And I'm like, so keep going. Or
Yeah.
I've done 500 videos. So keep going.
Yeah.
That content creation is so key. So Rob, I want to close just with, I want to talk real quick about you said you've shifted like your heart is kind of more towards like making sure stuff serves the community now
Mm.
and helps others. Like what because that like yes, there's a dollar amount because there's subscriptions that come your way, but like what does that bring into your life? Like as you help and serve, like how does that affect you? I'm curious.
Sure. When I started Oink, it was I still had my job and I did not know I was going anywhere. And I was emotionally invested in that job. My brother still works there. Like I said, one of the first four people in the company. We grew to over 200, became profitable, and I put a lot into that company. And so I was doing the Amazon influencer stuff as a quote unquote side gig, even though it felt like a second job.
Yeah.
And you know, doing it at a really high level at that point. And um, whenever I made my YouTube channel, I didn't really have any monetary reason to do it. In fact, my brother kept going, "Why are you making a video all the time about giving away all your secrets? Like, seems stupid. Like, what are you doing, you ding dong, ding dong?" I was like, "I'm just trying to help. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just. It seems like I mean, and then maybe if I grow my YouTube channel and people subscribe, that maybe I can make a couple $100 a month from subscriptions." And he's like, "That doesn't make sense. Still." I was like, "Okay, whatever." So. And then when I lost the job and the job thing came crashing down, I had already released a very basic version of the extension. It was free. It was just like the current free cross-check and creator connections. And I think that the break-even calculator might have been in there too. I can't remember what it was. Yeah.
I don't think that came up until you had it.
Okay,
I
maybe the
remember it
order.
being pink. I don't remember it being the orange color at all. So, but I
Oh
could be
yeah,
totally
interesting.
wrong.
Well, so when you lose a job, even though at that point I was I was able to replace my salary with the Amazon influencer program commissions. You still lose a salary, and it's pretty massive. Like
Yeah.
it certainly knocks you around. But what it did more than that for me was it knocked me down personally. Like I've never been through a situation like that where I've been laid off or let go. I've been very fortunate in my life, and to do it in a situation where I was so sort of emotionally invested in it, helped build it up, and my brother was still there. I did not expect the emotional and mental toll that was going to take for me to do it. And so, but at that point, that free version of the extension was still floating around, and people were asking me to do more stuff with it. Like, hey, can you add this? And I'm looking around. I'm like, I got to find a job. Like, I got to find like a regular. Like, my wife is concerned, obviously, because I'm telling her, I'm like, that's all right. I got these videos that I'm making, and she's like, like, absent. That does not seem like it passes the. I'm like, I know that does not sound that. It doesn't sound like what I should be saying right now, but it was there, and it had been consistent for me. So I've been I started looking for jobs, and with more and more people that kept asking me to do stuff with the extension, I just kind of had to take a moment of like, if I'm going to spend any more time on this because of the situation I'm in, I have to rethink my approach with that. And I wasn't sure if it was going to go over very well, but it did. It jumped pretty much from the beginning of it. And I think that part of that for me, I was shocked at how much that meant to me on a personal level from feeling like even though I understood why I got laid off and I understood the finances behind it, I felt you sort of feel like a nobody or like a letdown. Or I remember we went to a wedding that first weekend and somebody asked me what I did, and I didn't. I was just it was like my first. I didn't know what to do. It was the first time I have had to have that conversation. And so, that's the first thing is the community in some way, unbeknownst perhaps to them, picked me up out of a spot where I was really kind of struggling personally with what was going on with the whole job thing. And I think the other part is, I said earlier that sometimes for people that are joining this, it's because life is awful. And I think that because, not to be whatever, but, my life has not always been great. And there's been stuff that if people wouldn't have raised their hand at some point and said, I'll do something about that on your behalf. Like I'll do whatever the case is that, people that didn't have to and still did that. So I think that I've always tried to be, since then, very mindful of the importance of sometimes somebody just caring a little bit more than maybe somebody else cares, how much of a difference that can make. So I do carry maybe a burden that maybe is outside of the scope of business of that, that these are people in these groups that are having their own struggles in their kind of own particular way. And, you're right. There's definitely, I am benefiting monetarily from the subscriptions, but I think that the thing that people may or may not, I think they do, because I think a lot of them just happens. Like I'm jumping on the amount of calls where I'll do with people like throughout the week, or somebody posts something in the group, and I'm like, that feels like I need to talk to these people, not because they're going to cancel their subscription, it's because like, hey, I don't understand something. Like, or if I get somebody that signs up and they send me an email of like, hey, I got a question for you, I'll go like, hey, do you want to jump on a call real quick? Because I feel like in some sort of way that because I'm collecting, I want to make sure also to be a good steward of their money, like and feel like that I want them to know that they made a good decision in my hands with making sure that they get the most out of not just this extension for the sake of the program, but maybe it can help make life a little bit better. So I don't know. I just feel like it's the world sometimes is awful and the world is sometimes hard. And I very much know that feeling of sometimes like nobody cares. Like maybe somebody like go Fizz cares a little bit. Like in some way, if I can draw some sort of a connection and do that, then I feel like my time here is well served.
I love that, and I think that that sentiment is not as prevalent as it should be. And I think if we had more people that approach life that way, approach business that way, man, what a change that would make. So thank you for your compassion and your care for everyone, and it's through an extension of all things. Like it's kind of
Yeah,
funny.
but even your intro, I mean, the community gives a lot of that back too, and to each other. Like that's one of the
Oh yeah.
things I've tried to figure out, with a community that especially starts to grow kind of to this level is like how do you it's hard, right? But how do you instill something in a group of people that you feel like you want to impart yourself, but also have maybe that sort of be like an underlying tone to the whole thing too, and one of the, and granted, we're maybe 4,500 subscriber or followers of the channel. Maybe it's not 20,000 or something or 50,000. But what I see is, people asking questions that predominantly other people jump in and those, even if it's something's been asked a lot, like, hey, you've been great at that. Our friend Lynn has been great at that. There's a bunch of people in the group that has been, great at doing those types of things. So it's certainly not a Fizz only sentiment. I think I've been very fortunate to have a group of people that maybe that has slightly imparted to, or sometimes heavily imparted to. And if I can make a community that has that overall vibe, it's not always going to be able to be the case, but if I can just make it feel like that and make it feel different, then I'll feel pretty happy about that.
And I think you have. I think that it really is. It's a happy place to be on the Facebook world.
Usually, I mean, it's an interesting place that well, and this also probably goes back to too, is I'm trying to run it like I'm not trying to run it as a Oink Facebook group. And it's got the Oink moniker on it, but ultimately I've said this in the group of like I really don't restrict very much conversation. I want it to be an Amazon influencer place because that's what my goal with the YouTube channel was originally, like with no concept of building something out of it. It was just like I'm just trying to see if I can make people's lives a little bit better. And so, I've only had to remove one person from the group so far, which I think is
That's
winning.
that's pretty
That's
miraculous.
that's pretty good. It's pretty good. And so, it's the same thing. It's just like, look, these are humans in here that are just trying to do the best they can. And that's why I even said, like, look, if you don't like Oink and you think something else serves you better, then I hope you go and you kill it with that thing. Like, do the thing that, like, whatever makes your life best. I want to make Oink so good that it becomes an obvious thing because, like, one, I want your subscriptions. Two, I want your life to change. Like, I want both of those things. And
Yeah.
so I just want to keep making it better. And if it's not a good fit, nobody wants to be in a relationship with somebody that, you don't want to be in that relationship. And I don't want to be there either. So I just want people to do whatever causes them to win, whether or not that involves me or Oink, whatever that is. I hope they go do it.
I love that. And so, yeah, if you're offended by pink, and I didn't even wear pink on purpose, it just happened today. So that is,
I've worn it a couple times because I got like one Under Armour pink shirt, and every time I do it, I
yes,
get on the call. People go, "Hey, that must be because of the thing," and I go, "No, no, it can't all be that. Like it's
maybe your
no."
subconscious is just hot pink. Who knows?
Well, and I thought whenever I was changing the name and I was trying to come up with a name for it, I thought a lot of it just came into place. I was originally going to call it Bonk. No, not a lot of people know this. I thought I'm going to call this thing Bonk because I think it sounds funny. I would love to hear people talk about it in a conversation of Bonk. And then whenever I looked it up, I was like, there's something already called Bonk. I was like, oh, that's awful. Like it wasn't related to this, but I was like, I don't want to be confused with another bonk. And then but that phrasing and sort of the ONK part of that just kind of stuck with me. And I hit the oink and I was like, that doesn't even sound good coming out of my mouth. Like if I say oink, it just sounds weird. But as I thought about it in relation to like the piggy bank at home and working from home and like being able to brand it with pink, 'cause I wanted to do a color that the other extensions, I wanted to make
Yeah,
sure to not, step on anybody's toes with
yeah,
the branding or the way that it looks. So I wanted something that was unique. And it's been fun because I make a little pig thing and I put little pig heads in the extension, like and he shows up at different places and it's like oinkers is in there. And I call people oink butts in the group sometime. I'm like, hey, oink butts, and just trying to kind of have some fun with it. It turned out great though, because like people don't talk about it in such like passing sort of thing, like it's a thing, like it is what it is, and it's not weird to them, and it doesn't sound weird to me anymore. But uh, it does not fall short on me of how unique of a situation it has turned into where this thing that just I try to create something and it sounded silly and people now say it as a part of just their ecosystem. I'm so appreciative of how that actually turned out because people could have been like, this is stupid. This guy named this thing something awful. And when I changed it, there was one person that said, I don't like this name. I was like, I don't know if I actually like it either, but I get it. And so
but
here
here
we
we
are.
are.
And so Oink is locked in, I'm afraid.
I love it. I was driving around and I saw somebody on the top of the roof had four little pigs,
Yeah.
like inflatables on top of their roof. And I was like, I didn't have a chance to like stop and snap a picture. I was going to post it in the group, but it really has like, it's part of our vocabulary, mentality, ecosystem now. And it's like, I can't see a pig without thinking
Yeah,
Oink
I'm with
and
you.
Amazon influencer and thinking you know,
I'm
like
with you. I was reading my granddaughter a book yesterday, and I didn't realize it was a farm book, and it got to a page with pigs on it. They all said oink, 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 and I'm with you. But I will say too, I am an Amazon influencer first and foremost. I say this on some
yeah,
of my other videos, but I think that's also part of the reason why the community has been so good to me is because, I I think that because I'm an influencer first, I try to think of like things through strategy, and I'm trying to build the tool based off of the things that I do through everything that's in it right now, honestly, is stuff that I had been developing for myself to move the needle over the course of like the last year and a half or 2 years or whatever the case was. And so I think that they seem to appreciate, maybe it's because it's a creative group, I don't know, but they seem to appreciate me being an influencer that is making a tool for them, right? That maybe I
yeah.
see things through their eyes or whatever. And they're right. I mean, I am. That's ultimately what I am. And if something seems to not be working well from an influencer standpoint or strategically, I'll pull it from the extension if it doesn't make any sense anymore because that was my whole goal. If people are going to use this, then it needs to matter. And if it doesn't, then I need to make adjustments to it.
Yeah, and I think that really like it sets you apart in the influencer extension world for me at least is you are that influencer first. And so what you're developing is like stuff we can immediately put into practice and use and help save so much time. Like, oh my gosh, the time that is saved with just a few clicks and it's amazing. And so like you give people money, you give people time, you give people hope, like you're basically like a pink Santa Claus. That's what I'm going to call you.
That was not on my bingo card 2025 to hear that I was gonna. But the flip side of that too is Oink is simply a tool, right? It
Yeah.
can't do the thing for you. It basically can take the work. You still have to do the work, and it'll take basically if you had a hammer before, it's basically a bigger hammer is what it ultimately
Yeah,
ends up being. So
exactly.
it does still require that. But I appreciate you saying that on the pink Santa Claus. I'm gonna have to let that simmer a little bit. And
Well, you
as
could
we're
just do a little AI, like have them put you in a pink Santa suit. I'm
At the
just
rate my
saying.
beard's at the rate it's going gray right now, it won't be much longer. It may not be 2025, but I feel like I got a lock for a Santa gig in 2026.
Maybe, maybe. And you
Probably
can
so.
remember, you're like, I need a pink Santa suit.
I'll just leave one out in the sun all summer, let it fade. It'll
Let it
turn.
naturally bleach out.
Yeah,
Oh
it'll
my
turn.
goodness. This has been absolutely amazing, Rob. Thank you so much for taking your time, sharing your knowledge, which you are always so like liberal and free with. And I absolutely love it because I think it adds so much value for those that take the time to listen. And I know I love like your day what do you call it, your daily dose or your daily whatever that
The
you put
daily
out your
briefings. Yeah.
videos,
Yeah.
that they're so great, like they're such practical tips
Thank
and
you.
it's usually something that I have just thought about or I had been thinking about but couldn't find a solution, and so like they're always so spot on and so helpful. That is
Well, thank
something
you.
that only pro subscribers get, but I just love all of the value everywhere that you bring to this
Well,
table.
vice versa. I appreciate you and the help that you've done in the group, 'cause especially at the beginning, there's a lot of people who are like, how do you do this? And you stepped up and made tutorials for them and did a lot of stuff. So I appreciate, your not just your heart, but the time that you put into helping the community too, right? And so, and thanks for this opportunity for talking about what it is that I'm trying to accomplish over here. Appreciate that.
Yeah, you are so welcome. It brings me so much joy and it's fun to share things that are amazing. So,
Well, thank you.
okay, well, thank you so much, Rob. We will see you next time.